Ever wonder what goes on behind the scenes of Love is Blind? Me too! Did you know a previous cast member filed a lawsuit against them? Me either! In this video, I'm going to share 12 behind the scenes secrets of Love is Blind. Some of them might spoil your point of view about this show, so enter at your own risk. And if you stick around until the end, I'll share with you the story about the lawsuit. Love is Blind is created by Kinetic Content, the same production company that produces Married at First Sight, The Ultimatum, and Perfect Match, just to name a few. Hey there, I'm Tamara, and this is Tamara Lynette Tells. Let's get into it. So they start off with 30 singles, right? 15 men and 15 women. On day one of visiting the pods, we see the cast with their little notebooks, introducing themselves to the opposite sex. Well, it turns out that they are speed dating. So those initial dates only last like 7 to 10 minutes. Like, no wonder they take so many notes in the beginning. Otherwise, by the end of the day, they won't remember who said what. So after everyone has met, the cast shares who they like the most with producers. Then producers basically determine which singles both swiped right on each other. Then from there, the producers figure out who will be dating in the next round. As they get to know each other, the amount of time they spend together increases. There is no limit to how long a couple can have a conversation. Like, some couples have spent 3 to 4 hours in the pods together. They didn't want to leave. Some would even fall asleep in the pods. So some of the couples who fell asleep were those who were really falling in love and didn't want to be apart. And there were the other couples who determined that they didn't have any chemistry, so they used their time together to take a nap before the next date. By the way, there are no restrooms in the pod. They have to go back to their living quarters area to handle their business, and they're escorted there and back by production staff. Before they even head into the pods, production gives the cast talking points and questions to ask their dates. So they're given only as a reference. They can talk about whatever they want, including asking about what each other looks like. Even though the show is not supposed to be about what they look like, they are allowed to discuss it and even share who their celebrity look-alike is. So it's likely that by the time they get to the reveal, they already have an idea of what each other looks like. The pods are completely soundproof. It looks like the cast can hear each other through the blue wall, but they can't. Actually, they are listening through speakers that are strategically placed within the pod. I've always wondered how many days they spend getting to know each other in the pods. They devote around 10 days in them. So they start with the 30 singles, then as time goes on, they let people go to focus on the real connections. In other words, they have less than 10 days to build a real connection, or they get the boot. There are a total of 20 pods, 10 for men and 10 for women. They are approximately 12 feet by 12 feet, and in between seasons, they pack them up and ship them to different locations for filming, like Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles. They can ask for random food and snacks. Production staff will run around town or order whatever they want for the most part. However, alcohol is provided in the living quarters and the pods, whether or not it's requested. The community living spaces, they do not give an accurate picture of what their sleeping quarters are like. A previous contestant was quoted as saying they slept in trailers on correctional facility beds. Multiple cast members have described it as feeling like a fraternity or sorority setting. So their living quarters are not glamorous and don't sound as though they offer a great deal of privacy. The cast has to surrender their cell phones during the duration of the pod segments. And I don't mean just while they're physically in the pod. I'm talking about the entire 10 days until they get to the vacation segment where they go on their little getaway. Production wants their focus to be on their dates and not the outside world. In addition to this, they do not have access to TV or Wi-Fi either. Not quite sure how watching Stranger Things would hurt their experience, but apparently it will. So what do they do to kill the time? Some cast members said that they did things like baking, playing pool, and having twerk challenges. If you're wondering how they're able to take so much time off work, it's because they are paid to participate. They make approximately $1,000 a week while they are on the show. By the time the guys get to the point of proposing, production doesn't allow them to leave the facility to go out into the real world. So, production has a small collection of rings for the men to choose from. If they want to upgrade the ring, they can pay out of their own pocket. And of course, they can bring their own ring like Kyle did in season 2. He brought his mother's engagement ring. In both season 1 and 2, there were 2 proposals that we never saw for each season. Production can only focus on a certain amount of couples and only have so much time per episode. Plus, they like diversity. So they pick the stories they want to tell and mix it up accordingly. Production pays for the weddings, but the cast plans them. Since these are real weddings, producers want the couples to be able to design their own ceremonies, which they do. Production gives them a budget, and if they want to go over budget, it's up to production whether or not they'll cover it or make the cast member dip in their own pocket. Okay, so those were my 12 behind the scenes secrets I've learned so far. As promised, let's get into this lawsuit. So, a former cast member, Jeremy, from season 2, has filed a class action lawsuit against the production company for alleged unsafe and inhumane working conditions. Remember how I mentioned that they have plenty of alcohol in the pods and living quarters? Well, Jeremy is alleging that there was unlimited alcohol, but they were not given easy access to water or food, which of course helps keep folks from getting drunk. He also claims that he and the cast were underpaid and not given enough time to rest between filming. So, according to his lawsuit, at times, production left members of the cast alone for hours at a time with no access to a phone, food, or any other type of contact with the outside world until they were required to return to working on the production. Meanwhile, one of his attorneys talked about how producers made it pretty much impossible to leave the set. Like if they weren't happy and wanted to go home. She said the contracts require contestants to agree that if they left the show before filming was done, they would be penalized by being required to pay $50,000 in liquidated damages. This certainly had the potential to instill fear in the cast and enable production to exert even further control. The $50,000 penalty is allegedly the same for their show Married at First Sight. If a cast member leaves that show without the consent of producers, they are also subject to a $50,000 fine. Now, as for his statement of being underpaid, they are saying that under California law, the cast should have been classified as employees instead of independent contractors because producers dictated the timing, manner, and means of their work. They are paid a flat fee of $1,000 per week. However, they are forced to work 20 hours per day, 7 days a week, which is around $7.14 an hour. However, California's minimum wage is $15 an hour. Yeah, so the entertainment industry doesn't work like that, though. This is a non-union gig because the cast are not members of the Screen Actors Guild. So for non-union gigs, some productions pay a little something and others don't pay at all. Like, take it or leave it. Then they expect you to work until the job is done. So oftentimes for non-union gigs, the amount that's paid is more of like a stipend for your time, not a living wage. For better or for worse, this is how the entertainment business works. And the reason why networks really love reality shows, because they're so much cheaper to produce than scripted shows. So for damages, he's seeking unpaid wages, financial compensation for missed meal breaks and rest periods, restitution for unfair business practices, and civil penalties for labor code violations. Meanwhile, the production company, Kinetic Content, has made a statement saying Mr. Hartwell's involvement in season 2 of Love is Blind lasted less than 1 week. Unfortunately for Mr. Hartwell, his journey ended early after he failed to develop a significant connection with any other participant. While we will not speculate as to his motives for filing the lawsuit, there is absolutely no merit to Mr. Hartwell's allegations, and we will vigorously defend against his claims. Oh, it sounds like they are dropping hints that someone may be a little bitter about not finding himself a boo thing. Now, as of the date of this video, the outcome of this lawsuit has yet to be decided, but I think it's going to be a juicy case. Well, that's all I got for now. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in my next video.